Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be talking about the long-range box office forecasting for Morbius, which in the slew of the Batman box office news last week kind of got, sneaked in a little bit by Box Office Pro. I thought it was a bit interesting that they had actually put that in there during that week, but it does make sense because we are officially a month out, and this is something that Box Office Pro likes to do. It's about a month out from release. They like to be able to put out some long-range forecasting, and even though their modeling can sometimes be really off, and sometimes their modeling can be right on the nose when everyone else is off, it is, I think, kind of that 50-50. You have to basically take it with a grain of salt and understand that methodology when it comes to box office tracking and predicting is not an exact science, and also it's very hard, especially in the modern market, to be able to really track what it is that audiences truly want to see, and also how do we take the views that might be taken on social media or received on social media and social media interactions, and somehow be able to figure out and formulate ways to, kind of predict exactly what that will mean for box office success or potential box office failure. And so the big question for Morbius, of course, is because of all the delays with this movie, is it going to be able to make back its money? Well, we'll talk about that today and a little bit more. So before you go any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, love that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way every time the video or live stream goes live on the channel. So Morbius, again, the film that just keeps on getting delayed and delayed and delayed. As you can see, it's based on a script from 2017. The project, as far as the writers are concerned and the people directing, etc., all the people that are working on it joined the project in June of 2018. It says work began in earnest at the end of the year with further casting ahead of production starts in February of 2019. Filming was confirmed to have been completed by June of 2019. Morbius is scheduled to be released in the United States April 1st, 2022, delayed from an initial July 2020 date, primarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So, that's right, you heard that. The filming on this film was finished and completed June of 2019, meaning that they realistically could have released this film October of 2019. Now, obviously, they didn't because it would have gone up against, I believe, Joker was coming out at that time. And so it could have come out against some competition. And I don't think this is the kind of movie that they actually have a lot of confidence in. I want to say that they maybe even had initially desired for this film to be one of those January movies, right? So maybe it'll be successful, but let's be honest, January is where films tend to go to die. But it's interesting to me that the film, again, having had initially a July of 2020 release, so they thought this was going to be, I guess, they were trying to position it to be a summer box office hit. It just seems to me that ever since that time, ever since that initial release date, they haven't really been showing a lot of confidence in the film. Again, one of the release dates for this movie was January of this year, which would have been a very interesting time for this film to have been released. They, of course, decided to push that back, and now it's to the point where it's at April 1st of 2022, which I think is quite hilarious, seeing that it is, of course, April Fool's Day, and that's why I honestly do not believe that they're going to stick to this release date. They very well could at this point, because I think at this point you kind of have to ask yourself, if you were Sony, all right, we kind of need to get this film out. We've probably spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this film. It's just collecting dust at this point. It's been done since 2019. We kind of need to be able to make some of our money back. Maybe we'll make all of it back, but you know what? Maybe now would be the best time, or about a month or so from now, after the Batman's been out for about a month, we'll be able to actually, make a little bit of cash, make a little bit of money on the project. And so I just find it to be a very interesting move from Sony to have April 1st as the actual release date. But it is finally coming out according to this, but again, I'll believe it when I actually see it, seeing that this, amongst so many other films, have just been pushed back constantly over and over again because of the fear-mongering of, and because of the pandemic. And so one thing to note, though, about Morbius is we don't actually have an official box office budget for this film, which I find to be a little interesting, and also makes you ask the question, I wonder how much extra money they've spent on the film. Not only in marketing cost, because they've had to market this film multiple times, but also because of potential, reshoots and potential adding additional scenes. There was speculation that after the success of Spider-Man No Way Home, that there would have been some extra scenes shot because of that. Again, it'll be quite interesting to see exactly how they are able to actually, have this stuff going on, and actually be able to see what exactly it says. The film's release was moved back another week at the end of April 2021, moving to January 28th of 2022. At the start of 2022 was delayed. So as you can see, this is the history of how it was delayed, and again, it's quite hilarious just to see. As it does say, reshoots for the film did begin by early February of 2020 and were finished a month later when the film productions around the United States were halted due to COVID-19. So again, I think that there were some reshoots then. I would not be surprised if there were some potential reshoots or very small reshoots that were added on in the wake of the success of Spider-Man No Way Home, just because it would make sense. I know, River, it would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense. It would be stupid for them to not take on and to kind of try to make bank off of the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. But because of that, we just don't know exactly how much money they spent on the film. If we look to other films from Sony that are in a similar vein, we look to, I think, the Venom films as being a great example. I think that $100 million is definitely in the ballpark for it. Obviously, they don't have an entirely CGI character, but there are a lot of CGI elements that you can see from the trailer, especially when Morbius is turning more so into this human vampire hybrid of sorts, and obviously those flying effects as well, which I will say don't look nearly as terrible as they could. So at least kudos to the visual effects team in the initial run-up to the film. Producing something that doesn't look completely terrible based on the trailers, at least from a visual effects perspective. I don't think the story looks all that good. Again, just based on especially the fact that Jared Leto is the lead. I'm just not personally a very big fan of him in that leading position. So I don't know exactly how well that's going to work or how well this film is going to hit with people. But I do find it interesting nonetheless that they have not released yet a budget for the film. Probably going to be around the $100 million range if I had to guess, which means the break-even point for this film is going to be around $250 to maybe $300 million, depending again on what that final number ends up actually being, which is why it's interesting that the long-range forecasting for this from Box Office Pro, so again, take this number with a grain of salt, and it will, of course, change over the coming weeks as we get more information about pre-sales, as we get more information about just the general sentiments about the film. So the opening weekend is projected to make around $40 to $60 million, with the long-range total domestic being somewhere between 80 and $130 million. So the film making needing to make $250 million is therefore in the cards, but it's not looking all that great for the movie, at least at this point. Now, this is just the domestic market, so it very well could do better in the international market. Sometimes there are certain films, especially ones that do feature CGI, that do feature more action, that tend to do well in other countries. There's, of course, that question of, since they were able to, Sony, that is, were able to work, with the Chinese Communist Party to get releases for films like Uncharted, would they be able to get a release like Morbius? The trickiness with Morbius, of course, is the fact that it does feature a vampire-like character, and China is very weird in its, the censors, the corporate state-sponsored censors that they have in China are very weird when it comes to anything dealing with, anything that's magical or mystical or things like that. So it'll be interesting. I don't know exactly if they would be able to get that. I don't know if that has been confirmed, whether or not the film will be there. But you know what? You know what we like to do here? You know what we like to do here on the channel? We like to do things live. And so we'll go ahead and see if indeed Morbius has an official release date in China. Because really, honestly, I think that the only thing that I can think to possibly be able to bolster the film and to be able to bolster the box office for the film is if it was going to have a release in China. As we all know, China is pretty often an easy way to make a little bit of cash, but it is, as I've mentioned before, a bit of fool's gold as well. And the reason why I say it's a bit of fool's gold is because when you have a release in China, studios get about 25% of the box office, meaning 75% of the money stays with the Chinese Communist Party. So let's say you make $100 million in China, that means $75 million of that will stay in China with the CCP funding their human rights violations. And that's why it drives me nuts that they are so willing, because of course it's sexy in the news, to say, hey, we're going to withhold money from Russia. We're going to take money away from business owners in Russia, but we're not going to take money away from the Chinese Communist Party in China. It's kind of crazy, to say the very least. As you can see, the release date in Russia is now up in the air because they are playing this game. And again, I'm not saying or defending Russia in any way. However, it is just a bit, hypocritical. I made a video dedicated solely to this topic. If you want to see that, you can check out, it released not that long ago. But again, it's just so hypocritical that they're like, oh, we're going to stand up to Russia for human rights violations, but we're not going to stand up to China, which has done so many things that have been so much worse. So you can see there is a Hong Kong release, but that is, of course, not the same as mainland China. And based on the numbers we got here, doesn't look like they are going to have a release in China. What it is, the good news, of course, is that it is releasing around the same time across the world. And so we'll have some, meaning our projections will be able to be a lot more accurate once the film actually comes out. So again, it'll be interesting to see exactly if they're able to, as I mentioned before, I think because of the subject matter, they probably would not be able to get a film like Morbius into China. So with that being said, then, this then is going to rely on the other international markets to be able to make up for, what it could have potentially have made in a country like China. But again, could be the fact that the film was made and how it was made, the subject matter, that actually saves it from giving millions of dollars to China, which again is arguably always a good thing. But is it going to be enough for the film to make its money back? Is it going to be enough for Sony to make its money back on this, on this projection? It's really hard to say. Again, $80 million if it gets that lower range, right? So if it just bombs at the box office, just doesn't do well at all, is not able to capture the attention of a lot of people, doesn't have, very positive word of mouth. And really, the only thing that I think could save this film is a positive word of mouth campaign. If people go to see it and they say, dude, Jared Leto is actually, killing it in this role, and hey, he's actually doing so much better. This is the best that I've seen of him. That's expecting a lot, right? That's having a lot of expectations for it. Then you could potentially see this film get closer to the, $60 million opening, maybe even more. Could make, upwards of $130 million, in the domestic market. At that point, all it needs to do is just make 120 million internationally, which is not that hard to do, as we can see. Just so many films this year have been able to, especially bigger ideas, bigger IPs, bigger concept films, have been able to make upwards of $100+ million, at least overseas. So it's theoretically doable and definitely possible. And obviously this would be coming out in the wake of Spider-Man No Way Home, and so you might still have enough people saying, "Ooh, wait a minute, there might be some reshoots or some connections to Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't really care about Morbius, but maybe I'll go see it for that reason." Maybe there's going to be a post-credit scene or something like that that's going to, set up this universe a little bit more. That could be enough to bring out enough people to be able to push it to the higher end of its projections and also bring it to the point of its break even of around $250 million. And again, all that's going to depend on what the actual budget for the film is and just how much excitement is going to be surrounding this film. And even though we could say, and we argued that there was indeed hype around the Batman, and I think, what we saw from this past weekend, that turned out to be very true, I don't think that there's anywhere near as close the same level of hype for this movie in any capacity whatsoever. I don't quite see this film as being a huge box office success, but at the end of the day, all it needs to do is make $250-300 million worldwide to at least break even, to at least make its money back, and I think that's doable. The question is it going to be able to actually do it? What are y'all's thoughts? Do you think Morbius is going to break even? Do you think it's going to make some profit? Do you think it's going to be a sleeper hit? I doubt it. I just don't really see it. I see it more as a film that's going to either lose a little bit of money or is going to make just a little bit of money, maybe break even. I don't see this film losing a lot of money or making a lot of money. That's kind of just my own perspective on it based on what the projections are and just based on my own sentiments, on what I perceive from the trailer for the film and just my own, lack of hype for the film at the end of the day. But what are y'all's thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, line up that fire button on Odyssey. Y'all are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my March Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting off first with my Patreon members, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Fuzz Aldrin, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Hymir Ari Hymason, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Chat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Rosetta Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and of course Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Also, a shout out to my Subscribe Star members, starting off with Trent Johnson, Matt317, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Storm Tracker, The R, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And a final shout out to my locals members, Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all so very much for being supporters, monthly supporters of the channel. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and every single video, please check out the pinned, the very top link in the video description. It is noted as the Willow link there. It'll bring you to basically a link tree of all the different places that you can support on Patreon, Subscribestar, or on Locals. And also there are other tiers that you can get access to as well, including an Army of Asgard level where you get not only the shout out, but you also get access to a giveaways channel that I have on my Discord, where you get offers of giveaways, or rather you get access to giveaways of 4K titles, Blu-rays, digital codes, all kinds of stuff, steelbooks. It's just, I'm giving away stuff all the time over there, and it's a lot of fun as well. So go check that out if you're interested. There's also the Keeper of the Bifrost level, which is the higher level up than that, and you get everything from the previous tiers. Plus, you get access to a once or twice a month podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you get to ask us Q&A, right? You get to ask us questions, any question that you like, movie or non-movie related. We will answer them once, maybe twice a month. We're trying to work on a second opportunity for us to have a show, but right now it's at least once a month. So again, you get access with that with the Keep of the Bifrost level. And then there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, the very premium level, where you get access to all of those things. Plus, you get to be featured on the channel once a month with me and the other Chosen members, where we talk about movies and stuff. Anything really that the Chosen want to talk about. And it's always a very fun discussion. We usually have about 3.5 hour discussion. So again, that's what you get access to at the Chosen of Valhalla level. Also, you get a free t-shirt during your first month. All you need to do is just let me know what t-shirt you want from the store, and also their size, location, etc. And I send those out anywhere in the world. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Thank you all so very much again for your love and for your support. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.